G'day there guys, it's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/LegalAdvice. Now if you love today's episode, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy today's bloody good content. Thank you. Posted by user Redneck Lesbo. Titled, Arizona/Nevada. Just found out my wife was married as a joke in Vegas in 1997. I never thought I'd be posting on here, but I need some help on where to go from here. My wife and I are about to celebrate our 15th anniversary in a few weeks. Long ago, when we first got together, she told me she married one of her gay guy co-workers in Vegas as a joke when she was a teen. Honestly, I thought she was full of it, and that it probably wasn't legal anyway. Well, now I read in another post on LegalAdvice about a guy who might have gotten married to a stranger in Vegas. Someone on his post added a link to the Clark County marriage record search. I put her name in, and holy crap if a certificate didn't pop up. She is sitting next to me ready to puke. She didn't think it was a legal marriage either. So, now what? She didn't really know the guy, has no idea what happened to him. She is searching Google and Facebook for him, with no luck. So I guess our marriage is invalid? We have 2 kids. What does this mean? Were they adopted fraudulently because our marriage certificate is invalid? I will get an attorney tomorrow, but would like to know what to expect. 1. What if we can't find this guy? 2. What if we do? 3. How much crap are we in for filing taxes together, getting our names changed, adopting our kids under the pretense that we were married? And 4. Best case scenario, quickie paper divorce, right? And then what? Do we have to get remarried? To clarify, we live in Arizona, marriage happened in 1997 in Nevada. Thanks in advance. Glorificent says, first step to solving any problem, don't panic. Step 2, find the husband. There should be sufficient info in the marriage certificate to track him. If he's dead, no harm, no foul, that ends a marriage. If you find him, step 3, have them file to annul. Annulment is the same as never happened. And if you can't find him, which in 2019 is unlikely, step 4, she unilaterally files to annul. And OP replies, thank you for this. He has a very common name, and she can't even remember what he looked like, so we aren't having luck on Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. It is entirely possible that he's living in Mexico now as well, as she thinks he may have been a Mexican national. We have a really good attorney who handled portions of our adoptions. She does some divorce law too, so I'll be contacting her in the morning. On the marriage license, there's no date of birth. Order the marriage license, and that will have enough personal details that you can run a great search to locate him. We just ordered it. All I can see online is his first and last name. Hopefully the certificate will include more info. She doesn't even remember anything about it, other than it might have happened. This should be interesting to say the least. Deep breath. You said a teen, but that he was a co-worker. If she was under 18, you've got it even easier. But as for tracking him down, her old employer may remember or have records. Did she go to Vegas with other people from work? If their names aren't as basic, she might be able to track them down and go from there. But yes, lawyer up. Turns out she was 20, so not a teen, but close. She thinks she might have also gone with a girlfriend, but can't remember who it may have been at the time. Her memory sucks for everyday things, so I have no doubts when she tells me she doesn't remember the details. I do have an attorney that we've used in the past for our adoptions. I'll be contacting her for this as well, as she also does divorces. And now we're going to read the update. So, I had such great feedback from my previous posts that I wanted to give an update. Court date for the annulment was today, and the judge granted it. That means it's like it never happened, and we can go on with our lives. It would have been a nightmare if not granted, because our marriage wouldn't have been legal, and it would have had major implications on the adoption of our kids, and even filing of our taxes. Luckily, all is well. As for the original wedding, we managed to track down one of the witnesses to the marriage. He was able to tell us that Elvis married them. Who the F doesn't remember that Elvis married them? And it was a double wedding. My wife and her girlfriend each married one of the couple of gay guy friends. They never imagined 22 years ago that that gay marriage would ever be legal, and so marriage was like a joke to them. Why they did it, I have no idea. But the other two are still married and don't seem to care since they're still friends. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for your help and the laughs. Our next post is by user Canova22, titled, "Website refuses to take down the ad for seasonal renting of our squatted house." So, this is a bit muddy because the website is international and very popular. Starts with a B. The house is in France. The owners, us, are French, but the house is squatted by UK citizens. Namely, my husband's family, who we let in the house graciously. After a few years, because of bad blood, we asked to get our house back, and they refused. Here again, we are rather in the dark. We are communicating through lawyers, but it has been on a standby since June. I think our lawyer is crap, but that's another matter. We originally bought this house to rent it to tourists, but never got a chance. The family moved in the moment we bought it. Now, they were legally asked to leave by the 1st of June. I have shown the paper to the website. Obviously they didn't, but on top of that, they have been renting the rooms to tourists since March. I contacted the website, provided them with proof of ownership, etc., and expressed my desire to see the illegal renting stop. I called several times, sent several mails, starting April. While it was momentarily made unavailable, the renting has continued and is still going on. Last time I called, the guy told me that it was up to their law service. He couldn't say or do anything. I threatened to go to the police, and he encouraged me to do so. Unfortunately, the police won't do anything. I have to go to the tribunal and pay a lot of money that I don't have. I then appealed to the law that says I can ask for my personal data to be taken off a website, as there are pictures of our house, exact location, etc. Same thing. Temporary disabled, then back on the website, no answer. From what I understand, the squatters have bought another house and are making the most of our house to make profit during summer before hopefully leaving. But at that rate, I'm wondering if they are ever going to leave if they can rent it for the whole year. I would really want to see it shut down. Do you have any idea what I can do? To answer some questions, it is illegal for me to change the locks, add locks, block them in any way, even though they are illegal in the house. Welcome to France. They also only rent rooms in the house while still living in it, so I can't rent it and take over. I still have the keys. My husband went to go get some of our stuff at some point, and was verbally and almost physically attacked. My family buffered, insulted. They called a friend to block the car, and so on. The extent of the bad blood is going quite far now. I definitely get your point about the lawyer. We are going on holidays for 4 days. If when we come back nothing has changed, I will get a new lawyer. This is ridiculous. I'm literally wondering if my lawyer has been bribed or something. Between the website not complying, my lawyer who is crap, and these people who literally pushed my husband to suicide and then refused to help the search party, I am utterly disgusted, and hoping they get all very lost very far. Thank you all for your help and support, and kudos. And now, on to the update. Hey guys, I wanted to give you news, as a lot of you sent us advice and ideas. First, I listened to you and gave up on my lawyer. We didn't have the money to get another one, but I hired a jurist and negotiator to try and figure something out. Unfortunately, they ignored her too. We were getting rather desperate, and thought it was going to end up in the tribunal when we got a message that they had left and the keys were in the veranda. It was. They left a lot of things behind, including framed pictures of my husband. I guess that's his mum's way of saying she's cutting him off. She's also blocked him on social medias. Now, to the point I was trying to debate. The website forever refused to comply and take the ad down. As a matter of fact, it's still up. I think the squatters enjoy the fact that we find it annoying. I pulled, pushed, wrote, called, complained, and filed an official complaint for the pictures to be taken down. Nada. Nothing. That very famous international website got all the proof that the house they were renting was illegally occupied, acknowledged that, and told me there was nothing they could or would do until I had a court order, basically. That was one insane rabbit hole I went down to. I am still quite confused as to how they can justify that. Now we are changing the locks and getting ready to do some work, furnish it, and rent it. The squatters have bought another house with a B&B, and have been renting for more than a month now. They were probably already gone when I posted my first message, but because of the situation of the house in a dead end, and the fact that they attacked my husband last time he was there, we didn't go and check, convinced they wouldn't leave until the end of September at best. We didn't do anything to push them out, as we didn't want to find ourselves sued or hurt, and we were afraid of retaliation on our animals. Basically, anything would have been illegal, short of staying outside of the property and taking pictures, have people roam around without getting in, and tell people that the renting of the rooms were illegal. This has caused a lot of stress and sorrow, but at least now we can move on. Thank you guys for your support and advice, and sorry moderators for creating a lot of work for you. Posted by user Drama Meter, titled, MN, School is accusing me of cheating with no evidence. I'm now suspended and want access to my social media and email to prove my innocence. I'm being accused of cheating in a maths exam. I am 16 years old, I got a perfect score in the exam, and the teacher asked me to stay after class, and she told me that she knows I cheated. I didn't cheat. My math has always been good, except last year when I was dealing with depression. She says she knows somewhat of my mental faculties, will never be able to get a perfect score, so I must have cheated. I told her that I didn't cheat, and I'm offended at the accusation. 2 days ago, I was asked to see the principal, who said the same thing, that I should confess to cheating and tell them how I did it so they can stop other students from doing it. He more or less threatened me. This can go very well or very bad for you, depending on your cooperation with us. I told him that I'm happy to retake a new exam right now, or at any other time to prove that I didn't cheat. But he said that I could have had time to prepare since the time my teacher talked to me. I told him that if their evidence for me cheating is my lack of mental faculties, then no amount of studying should make a difference. He still did not agree for me to take another exam to prove that I could get that score. Yesterday, I was asked to his office again, and he told me that he knows about how some students are cheating and offered me a clean slate if I let them access my social media and email to find out who they are. And if I give them evidence of other students cheating, he will let me retake the exam. I have no knowledge of what he's talking about, and I denied access to my social media and email. I'm now suspended for disobedience of school staff and lack of cooperation for proving my innocence from a cheating charge. This to me sounds very unfair, and I can't help but feel like I'm being targeted here for maybe a personal reason. Because this does not make any sense. They have no evidence that I have cheated and refused my offer of retaking the exam, and they insulted my intelligence. Snapdragon says, how ridiculous. I work for an MN school. Write a letter/email to the superintendent and copy the school board on the email. Be polite, factual, and at no time make any emotional statements or accusations. Simply explain that you are horrified that you have not only been belittled for your past, but that your current accomplishments are being diminished. What will this letter do? Well, honestly, probably nothing in the long run. The school can't reverse their decision to suspend you, as it already happened. But if you don't have a worthless superintendent and school board, I can tell you that kind of email is embarrassing, and the superintendent will quietly look into the issue, talk to the principal, to the teacher, maybe hand out some slaps on the wrist. These are, unfortunately for you, the kind of things you will never see. You won't get any justice from your perspective. But at least in my district, we do listen and pay attention as long as the people complaining are doing so in a very reasonable, calm manner. Unlike the screaming parents who call up because they didn't know their child was failing a class, despite 1,000 pieces of mail sent to their home letting them know what was up. Definitely do this. The school board and superintendent will likely be very unimpressed. I am not a lawyer, and therefore not your lawyer, and I'm not writing this letter, but I am just seconding what the poster above said about making it factual and unemotional. Factual and unemotional can paint a pretty clear picture that won't look great. Some examples of factual statements. I recently took a maths test in Teacher X's class. I did not leave my seat or use any materials outside my pen, calculator, and test paper during this period, and the maths test was supervised for the entire duration by Teacher X. I managed to obtain a perfect score in the test. This is in line with my good track record in the subject as per my school records, with the exception of last year when I was dealing with depression. Good advice. OP, make sure you also add the fact that they have zero proof that you cheated. You are being punished based on an assumption with zero factual basis. Edit, I realized you weren't actually suspended for cheating, but for not allowing them access to your social media. Check out the school handbook and see if there's a rule about that. If not, point that out in your letter. And mention that their request violates the terms of service for their social media accounts. So you're essentially being punished for following the rules. Look up the school district that your school belongs to and take a look to see if you can figure out the hierarchy involved. Most likely, it's the office of the superintendent that handles complaints against principals. You want to ask for a review of your situation. Your parent might have to make the formal complaint though, since you're a minor still. A good school district will investigate and speak to you, etc. Sounds good. My mom will not make a complaint, but I may be able to convince her to just sign a letter that I write. Will this make the principal hate me even more, and maybe look for retaliation later on? Maybe, but the school district can and should be on the lookout for that kind of retaliatory behavior. It's pretty easy to tell. I mean, if the superintendent has to have a chat with your principal to get them to knock it off, and then a few months later, or the next year you start having issues, it's not difficult to make a connection. Yeah, that's good to hear. Thanks. I will call and prepare a letter and have my mum sign it and send it to them in writing. And now on to the update. I did what you all told me to do. I wrote a letter, had my mum sign it, and sent it to the superintendent's office. I also called them. They said they will speak with the school. I was called into school and the principal's office and was told to take the test there in his presence. I did that. The math teacher came and looked through all my answers and said it's another perfect score and wanted to leave. I said loudly, I think you owe me an apology. She said, yes, I should not have accused you of cheating. I said yes, and another apology for saying I don't have the mental faculties to get a perfect score. She said, I'm sorry, and left. The principal said, don't push your luck, kid. I said, it wasn't luck, and you also owe me an apology. He apologized and said my suspension is reversed and it won't go in my records. I then went to the counselor and told him that now in his 24 years, there is one student who was accused of cheating and proved the teacher and administrators wrong, so he shouldn't give bad advice to the next poor student who is in my place. So things are sorted out now. But also, I'm not going to be arrogant or aggressive like that with people. I only spoke like that with them because they have said incredibly mean and insulting things to me, and I was very pissed off at them. And the counselor had given me horrible advice. Thanks for pointing me in the right direction. Our first post is titled, Just No Mother draws over a portrait I made as a wedding gift. Am I overreacting? So this is actually my Just No Mother, and not an in-law, but I feel like the spirit is the same. JNM is Just No Mother, me is me, and JYA is just Yes Aunt. So my parents got divorced 2-ish years ago, and my mum took off and has been staying with her brother and his family. Her youngest, my sister, was 15 at the time. My father took it really hard and has barely been a person, which is its own struggle. I've focused most of my free time between school and work on my sister, who felt abandoned. My mother would pop around for a few minutes at a time and maybe occasionally text. She seemed to think that while she hit redo on her life, we would not have any fallout. She doesn't get that it causes all of us a lot of pain over how she did things, and she invalidates our opinions when we try to bring it up. She seems to have some narcissistic traits where her way is the correct way. And if you don't want that, some people are just so wrapped up in their negative mindsets, have some essential oils. That will fix you. My cousin, who is in the house my mother has been staying at, was sent to get married before the corona hit. They wound up having no choice but to have a small private ceremony and no party. The pandemic also hit us hard, and my father lost his job and my work cut back severely. I found myself with no money for a gift. I am, however, a decent artist. There is no way to sound humble, but my portraits are pretty decent. So I rounded up my art supplies, sacrificed my very limited free time, and spent 30-ish hours on a portrait of the bride and groom. I did realize that it's not a gift everyone might want, and I was okay if they didn't like it. It was what I could do for them. I hoped that it would let them know that I was wishing them well, even if the gift wasn't right for them. My mistake was involving my Just No Mother. After their small ceremony, our large extended family all lined up in our cars, social distancing and such, and waved as the new married couple went by in their car. My mother, being a resident at the bride's parents' home, was the easiest way to give my gift without breaking the social distancing rule. I asked her to pass it on when the couple stopped by her parents' house eventually. My mother took it on herself to frame the photo, which would have been really sweet, except for what I saw when my Just No Mother sent me a photo to brag about the frame. I'm glad I actually looked at the picture she sent, because I noticed something weird, and my heart got heavy and sunk into my stomach. Like, I wish I could post them for you guys, but since it's of real people, I obviously won't. I pulled up a picture I had taken of the portrait, and sure enough, the girl in it, my cousin, looked totally different. The one I did looked just like my cousin and her husband, but I had run out of time, and while the drawing looked great, it wasn't photorealistic or anything. The one my mother sent a photo of showed the same husband and a total stranger for the girl. My mother, who is not an artist, really likes having females looking a certain dressed-up way. It caused a lot of fights between her and her daughters. My cousin had been hiking in the reference photo that I used and wasn't wearing makeup. I'm guessing my mother thought she would help and took a pencil and gave the drawing super thick, long fake eyelashes and then worked out from there, resulting in a lopsided smudged stranger in the drawing. She even gave the girl kind of bangs that my cousin has never had. Here is the text conversation. She said, "I bought a frame, it looks great," and hid the spills on it. "Your auntie is tickled pink. Cousin should be stopping by again soon to pick up the loot." I say, "What happened to her face? Did you draw on it? Who drew on it? Throw it away." Then I sent her comparing photos to point out they were totally different now. "You tried to redo the face? The eyes are screwed and it doesn't even look like my cousin. Mom, hey, don't give that to them, please. I'm not kidding. If you give that to them and tell them it's from me, I'm going to be very angry." She said, "The eyes are screwed and it doesn't even look like my cousin." Unimpressed emoji. She was repeating what I sent, trying to get me to apologize. It doesn't even look like her. At this point, I had texted my auntie, who was very upset for me, and after being really sad, she agreed to make sure my cousins never get it. She was really disappointed because she's a very sweet woman who genuinely treasures handmade things. And Mum says, please do not stress out your auntie. She can't handle rants either. Look up symptoms of perimenopause. ... Then she says, the sketch is all my fault, I am very sorry, 3 sad faces. So I say to her, I'm very upset. It's okay if you didn't like it, or they didn't like it, but it was a present I made and worked hard on. I know it wasn't perfect, and I didn't have a lot of time, but it was from me, and I chose to give it to them. Sad face. I see that now. When you handed it to me and asked me to frame it, I never asked this. I got way too interested in improvements. Just more misplaced good intentions for the arsenal. What can I do to make it better? I'm broke. Mum, I don't need money from you. Please toss the drawing away. And then she never brought it up again, and yesterday, 1 week after my cousin's wedding, she got married to a guy we've met like twice with 5 kids, and didn't tell or invite us. But that's another story, lol. It would be a long time, if ever, before I forgave her. She desecrated your art. She took 30 hours of hard work and turned it into trash for absolutely no reason. I think you were being too easy on her. You kept trying to give her reasons why this was not okay, and she kept either deflecting or pulling out guilt trip bullcrap like just more misplaced good intentions. She is dreadful. The total lack of self-awareness and the also total lack of respect for you and for the recipient of the gift is mind-blowing. I am so sorry this happened. Thanks. I started to think I was crazy. It's hard because she really can't see anything she does as the problem. The weird thing is, I remember her being a good parent when I was young. My mum was so great when my siblings and I were young. As soon as we started becoming independent, she broke. The woman I lived with in my teens to early 20s was not my mother. The way her psychiatrist put it was basically she kept forcing the mental illnesses away because we needed her, and she needed to be there for us. Once we didn't need her, we could look after ourselves, the dam blew and it all came out. She's medicated now, and she's certainly never going to be the same mum that I had growing up, but she's not the monster she turned into anymore either. I guess what I'm getting at here is that the mum you remember from when you were a kid is very likely real. Maybe something like what happened with mine has now happened with yours. That's hard to even think about, but I just don't understand Mum's dramatic shift in the way she interacts. It's given me a lot to think about. We see it a lot in this subreddit, especially when sons are the ones growing independent from their mothers. This sounds like something my mother would have done. She never saw any of us as separate beings, so she had no respect for us or our things. I'm sorry your hard work was ruined. You did a wonderful job shutting it down. I'm infuriated for you. To me, this is unforgivable. Perhaps I should say unforgettable. There's a theory that forgiveness is really just deciding not to keep being upset over something so that your energies aren't wasted and the person isn't living in your head rent-free. But you don't forget that, so you never let yourself in for pain again. You can't trust her at all. This was wonderful to read. Thank you, and you really put into words how I feel. It's just not worth pursuing emotionally, but I have learned my lesson. I won't let her do this to me again. Our next post is titled, I knew this would happen. Advice wanted. So, my husband and I are first-time parents. My mother-in-law is already being a problem. I knew this would happen because she always has to be in control. I just wasn't expecting it to happen so soon. Literally our first day home from the hospital. I gave birth on the 19th, and our first day home was the 21st, and we had my mum and my husband's mum come over to meet the baby. Well, apparently everything I did with my son was wrong in the eyes of mother-in-law. She started complaining to my husband about how I was doing things. She speaks Spanish and I don't, so my husband told me all this. Not going to explain everything she had an issue with, but basically, everything I was doing was wrong, and she thinks I don't do anything around the house. My husband said she's just assuming things. So it ended up with an argument between my husband and his mother because he said that she was speaking about me in a demeaning tone, and he defended me and told her that we're both new at this. We're both learning, and basically told her that me and my happiness is more important to him than hers. Basically telling her, hey, my wife comes first and I don't like how you're speaking about her. And so she hasn't spoken to him since. I know he's upset and stressed out about the situation, and I'm sure he's going to eventually try and mend things with her, but now knowing how she truly feels about me, I don't really ever want her around me or my son. Who's to say she won't continue to say demeaning things about me, and what if she says these things to my son as he gets older? I don't need the extra stress that she brings. This is supposed to be a happy time for my husband and I with our first child, and she goes and makes it all about her. I can relate on the language barrier and controlling mother-in-law. If there is a common language between you all, I would insist it be spoken in your presence. If there's not, it's totally appropriate to set the boundary of only socializing with mother-in-law when dear husband is there to translate. Your dear husband was great in this story. I'm super happy for you regarding the way he reacted. If mother-in-law continues to put you down, it sounds like you can count on him to respond appropriately. That means that your relationship with mother-in-law will grow more and more distant as time goes on. This is a long game. I know you said you don't need the stress, and believe me, I hear you. But maybe you can find comfort in knowing that there's no way you don't come out on top with your dear husband supporting you and putting you first. I would talk with dear husband about decisive consequences for mother-in-law each time the behavior repeats. Talk about your hard boundaries. For me, it would be addressing LO with criticism about me. Oh, little one, Mummy didn't dress you warm enough. I hate that. Make sure it's a progressive schedule of planned responses and not on-the-fly reactions. I know it's not what you want to hear, but be open to accepting an apology and improved behavior from her on the off chance it happens. You don't even have to be friends with her or have a close relationship. But if she's not dangerous and no longer disrespectful, and you can have some semblance of a familial relationship, I do think there are benefits for dear husband and little one that make it worth tolerating her. My sister-in-law did this to me, and also in Spanish. I don't really speak it other than beginning intros, so my husband had to deal with her. Funny part is, because she's stupid as hell, she would always speak in English except when it was about me and my parenting. Then it would be in Spanish. My husband wouldn't respond in Spanish, he would respond in English, to not only let me know what was being said, but embarrass the crap out of her. The last time she did, he told her that she didn't need to see us or our son then, and she was on time out for like 3 months. Maybe your husband should tell her, respect my wife or don't see this baby. Our next post is titled, My mother-in-law threw away my significant other's passport and birth certificate 5 days before our vacation. So, my 24 male, significant other, 23 female, and I are recently graduated and barely getting by financially. My grandfather bought us both an all-expense-paid trip with him and his wife in a domestic territory of our country. We were elated as we never could have afforded this and haven't been on vacation for 6 years. The only request he had of us was to get passports so we could travel to territories claimed by other countries. I have a passport already, and we got my significant other one sent to her parents' home address at their suggestion since our address is transient. Well, it is currently 5 days until our flight to leave for vacation. We get a call from my mother-in-law saying she can't find my significant other's passport. Mind you, she's been out of the country for a month and has only been home less than a week. So, in less than a week, right before our vacation, my mother-in-law lost my significant other's passport and birth certificate as they were in the same package. She eventually told us she was cleaning and must have accidentally threw it away. I'm livid. She was careless and selfish and has cost my grandfather money, which will reflect poorly on us, and if that weren't enough, she's now blaming the entire thing on us. She didn't say sorry, just said it was our fault for not coming to pick it up. We were supposed to when we dropped off our dogs for her to watch by her agreement, or not letting her mail it to us. Never said she couldn't. My significant other now somehow believes this is her fault, and I blame mother-in-law. She refused to apologize or reimburse anything. I don't even know how to deal with this, but I plan on having some words. Any advice? Edit. She definitely did it on purpose. Now the birth certificate has suddenly appeared, but the passport is still lost. I think she's trying to sabotage the vacation. I don't know why. We're trying to get her to cover the cost of an expedited passport, and worst case scenario, my significant other can't go to some planned outings, but can go on the vacay. In general. Thanks for all the advice, it was all sound, and suspicions about my mother-in-law ended up being true. Thanks. You can report the passport stolen and have an emergency one issued usually. Do you need the birth certificate to travel? If not, it can wait. Also, not sure where you are, but in most countries, it's illegal to tamper with mail addressed to someone else. If so, definitely have her accountable for the replacement costs, since you won't get her arrested. You may have good luck asking on a travel forum where you can say you live and where you are going without a fear of being identified. And edits, I get it was sent to her address, but did it have significant other's name or her mother's name on it? And if it's illegal for her to tamper with the mail, then you can definitely charge her, and she will end up footing the bill. Hopefully you guys still get to go on the trip. And OP replies, I will report lost and stolen for security reasons, but I'm not sure we can get replacements in time for the trip. The birth certificate is recommended for travel, and we are worried because of my significant other's multiple last names. The mail was in my significant other's name, so thank you for that advice. I hadn't considered that originally. Try making a few calls. Staying calm and asking for help, you might get a workable solution. Our passports were lost in the registered post the day before we were due to fly out. I couldn't find the tracking number and rang the post office. Cried a little, but was polite, and the amazing lady went to great lengths to track every single similar-sized parcel in and out of our post office. She broke rules and tracked my credit card for me too in an effort to locate the passports. Turns out it had been at the post office for a week, and the tracking number had been on the bench and got stuck to the bottom of a plastic tub I'd put away. I work in retail. If we don't have something, my job requires me to apologize that we don't have it. But if someone is nice, I can do a lot of things. If it's a food item we make, I can offer to bake it for them while they wait. I could find it at another store or place an order for them. But I don't have to do these things. The trick is getting someone to want to do them for you. I always find that if I'm nice to someone, remember to apologize that they are dealing with this, and how much I appreciate their help, that they are willing to do everything they can to help. Thank you. This is great advice. I will be doing this and hoping for the best. That's really nice that they did that for you. Big mistake trusting her with important documents. Although, by suggesting your significant other have the documents sent to their house, she implied that she would be responsible for them. Okay, lesson learned the hard way, but that doesn't solve your problem. It sounds like you're not in the States, so I don't know the protocol for acquiring those documents in an emergency where you live. If you are in the States, a quick run to your country seat will get you the birth certificate. I think you're out of luck with the passport. And don't expect her to reimburse your grandpa for the trip costs. We both know she won't do it. Why didn't significant other get these documents when she went to pick up the dogs? That's on her. Do I think she's intentionally messing with significant other and your trip? Sure do. I know that stealing such documents is a crime. Here, Stealing social security cards and passports is a federal crime. My mother-in-law stole my baby's social security card, and I reported it to the police. Definitely have significant other talk to her sternly if necessary. She should let mother-in-law know that if those documents aren't found by the time you leave for the trip, it will greatly affect your relationship in the future. She will have proven herself untrustworthy. I'm so sorry this is happening. If losing the documents was intentional, then she's trying to sabotage your trip. Why? I don't know. Don't let her ruin it for you though. Go and have as much of a good time as you can, happy travels, and stay safe. And OP replies, "We haven't exchanged the dogs yet. The plan was to drop off the dogs and pick up the passport and birth certificate on the same day, as she doesn't live super close. We've arranged other care for them now. I'm not sure if it was on purpose or not, but she has manipulated my significant other into believing it was all her fault, and my significant other doesn't want either of us to confront her now. My significant other is very upset and has committed to paying back any losses to my grandfather, which I would help her with, as I don't put her at fault. My grandfather may not even require it. I just feel awful all around for everyone except mother-in-law. My main thing is her being so horrible to my significant other about it, and I don't think I can keep my opinions on that to myself." Our first post today is titled, "Just No Mother-in-Law Convinced My Kids I'm a Terrorist." Alt posting from my Today I F'd Up throwaway on mobile. Context here. I'm an IT guy who recently screwed up so bad, I got SWAT called on the fire department, which is the only other post on this account. I did not get fired. Just No Mother-in-Law is in town locking down with us because of a non-specific pandemic, and she's old and could use the help and company. So we put her and Just Yes Father-in-Law in the guest room. Just Yes Father-in-Law works in the fire department I screwed up at. He and I were laughing about it around the bonfire in the yard the other night, and kids were playing in the sandbox. 6 male, 4 female. Just No Mother-in-Law had done nothing but bitch and moan all day about being cooped up, needing to go out for X and Y, and how it was unfair we got to go out. Father-in-law is fire, I work for fire also. Volunteering on the engine when short-handed, which is always, but primarily, IT. And she was stuck with my wife and kids. Acting like doing first response to people burning their kitchens when they decide to make ramen with a flamethrower is a smart thing to do. Needlessly exposing ourselves routinely to something which could easily end her. But hey ho, we're the lucky ones. Just No Mother-in-Law decides it's a great time in front of the kids to ask loudly why I'm not fired, and says that terrorists do less damage. 6 male kid says, "Doesn't that make Dad worse than a terrorist?" "Yes, 6 male. He almost got Grandpa shot." While in an extreme case that could have happened, we work with police enough to know to just keep the F down when it's that serious. So in reality, there was little to no chance of that. I don't know, man. I'm ready to send her packing. Here's a thought. If you want to chuck them out of the house, but don't want to deal with any of the fallout right now, would this be a convenient time for someone in your family to catch the virus symptoms? It would be such a shame if Grandma had to leave for her safety. I'd talk to father-in-law about her. Let him deal with her. Also, as an amateur IT nerd and former emergency dispatcher, I laughed, but I totally see myself doing the same thing. If the bosses can't accept that crap happens, then they're in the wrong line of work. Thank God it's Friday drunk reply. IT has had the crap end of the stick. No matter what we do, we're always wrong. My now deceased ex-mother-in-law told my kids that I'm raising them to be terrorists, and told Children's Aid, our DCFS, that I was raising them in an inappropriate religion that will cause them to be terrorists. She then went and ran to my parents when I cut her out, complaining she didn't know why I'd cut her out. 3 guesses of what faith I am. First 2 don't count. I feel you, man. I did my time over in that magical part of the world, and the whole post-9/11 environment really screwed Muslims over. What is it with people and the immediate scorched earth response? Sometimes people's family situations aren't black and white, and you only read a snippet of a situation. Sometimes people are just venting. I could bitch for days about my situation right now, but it wouldn't do anyone any good. Not everything has to be a nuclear option, but to kick the father-in-law out too in the middle of a pandemic, that's asking to set off a chain reaction that may not be warranted. Should mother-in-law be held accountable for her words? Yes, she should. But advising people to go no contact over every situation or labeling it as abuse is completely screwed. I don't get it. And moving on, our next two posts are by the same OP. First one is titled, Here Comes the Overstepper. Just wanted to know if any of your Just No mother-in-laws use this precision technique. Invites themselves to events, then usually the night before said event, they say they aren't coming because they don't want to overstep. Cue lots of scurrying sons and daughter-in-laws falling over themselves to make Just No mother-in-law feel wanted. Result? Attends events, makes it all about her, gets to imply the whole time she might not be wanted. Of course, it's only evil daughter-in-law who might feel that way, and paints herself all the while as someone who is super considerate and respectful of boundaries. Everyone at event pays extra special attention to Just No mother-in-law just to make sure she knows she's loved and valued. F my life. Edited to change flair. Also, everyone around me is in the fog. Significant other understands she's a bit much, but would take her at face value here and see this as mother-in-law trying to be respectful. Mine does similar. I'll start with what she does. To me, it's just her pissing all over everything at this point. Thanksgiving one year, we made plans to travel to visit. Both families live in one town, so we made plans to participate in both dinners. My mum was most flexible and let us plan to be at mother-in-law's, then she planned hers. We drove up and when we arrived, my mum's was happening. So we ate and everything was fine. We left early to go to mother-in-law's. We get to mother-in-law's house and she said that no one was coming. The dinner already happened. She said the golden child's husband said, "I'm tired of you always being second. We're going to your house first." So they entirely cut us out of the entire dinner without even letting us change plans with my flexible family so we could see family. The whole reason we drove half a day. That was strike one, and since then she's done similar. Last Thanksgiving, we set plans in store, then planned one day's night. We made sure it was a day that was a clean slate, because for the plans we needed to leave at 3 p.m. We bought tickets and a hotel room. The following morning, mother-in-law lets us know their dinner was changed from the day before to the day of our plans, and it started at 1. Facepalm. Husband agreed, and we did literally everything we could, and we ended up sticking to our plans and having a blast. She tried to invite herself on vacations we've planned. She has invited herself to stay for days during holidays when we had plans of relaxing as a family. She has been trying to plan to come with 1 day's notice to stay with us for days. My husband wants everyone happy, and I'm the easy target because I hate conflict, so he gets me to bend easiest. I'm in therapy and moving forward. I love his parents, but also his mum's been bananas to deal with, especially lately, and I'm tired of dealing with another person's crap when I'm trying so hard to do the right thing for my kids. This negative energy and judgment is toxic and making me worse the more I deal with her. My advice is set boundaries early on so you aren't trying to 15 years in like me. Respect yourself and others, but don't let them trample on your life, then you fix yourself so they are happy. It doesn't work like that. There are circles, and the husband, wife, and kids are in a circle, and everyone else is outside and doesn't get to dictate. And OP replied, "Wow, what a cow. I hate GC's husband. What a desperate suck-up loser." This sentence is peak Just No mother-in-law heaven. Quote, She said the golden child's husband said, "I'm tired of you always being second. We're going to your house first." End quote. If you could liquefy those words, boil them up and evaporate them, then grind the residue into a powder, just no mother-in-laws would snort that crap up like Tony Montana on a bender. Kill her with kindness. It'll confuse the crap out of her. If you don't mind her being around, next time get ahead of her and text her, "Dear husband, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law have all arranged to get together, and I thought you might like to join us." It removes her power to manipulate. If she's going to be there anyway, you might as well be the one to invite her so you can appear to be the best daughter-in-law in the world. And last comment, if everyone else is in the fog, but her repeated bids for attention are bothering you, try to get ahead of her and say, "Don't forget to invite mother-in-law. I'll text mother-in-law an invite too." Go over the top to make sure she's always invited and knows it, and pull her card out from under her. She can't play, "But I wasn't wanted," if she's always invited to everything as soon as it's planned. She is going to be there anyways. May as well cut off the pity party. And our next post is by the same OP, titled, "Future mother-in-law sneakily cuts her own set of my house keys, and well, ambivalent about advice." So, it's been a year in this house. She lives 5 minutes away and is always trying to push her frickin' nose into every area of my life. I've done well maintaining my own basic human rights, but that's about it in terms of boundaries. One thing I have maintained is not giving her a set of keys. Well, when I was away for Christmas, she dog-sat for a few days. Not my choice, OH likes her to. I frickin' hate it and would rather a stranger do it. Anyway, of course when she was staying, she locked herself out and couldn't find the spare keys, which were actually exactly where I told her they were. So, had to smash a window to break in, of course. 1 week in from this drama, she let slip to OH that she had another spare key made to replace the missing spare, and also another set for herself, just so she has some, because it's silly that she doesn't have her own set. OH of the wibbly-wobbly spine told her she was out of order, but let her keep them like the little baby he is when he's around her. F that. Beer, you've done it now. I will die before I let this lie. I am getting my keys back if it's the only thing I ever achieve for the rest of my life. She knows full well I don't want her to have keys to my home, but is relying on it being too awkward for me to bring it up. Well, I actually walked out on my man when I found out. I was so angry. I only came back because he promised to tell her off for the first time ever and get me my keys back. I'm not sure he has it in him, but we shall see. He better do it before the weekend, as they are coming for lunch, and if I have to do it myself, I feel mass murder might be on the cards. I've had this happen. Don't worry about getting it back, just change the effing locks. Serious. I'll bet money this isn't her only copy. One for her keyring, and a spare at her house. You know, just in case. I've posted this several times before, but I'll post it again. We left my in-laws a key to feed dear husband's bird while we were out of town for a week. We took the key back as soon as we got back. They made copies of the key, and father-in-law came into my home uninvited and unannounced while we were having sex. He didn't think we were home because we didn't answer, because, hello, sex. We basically caught him red-handed with a key that he shouldn't have had. He came in knowing we didn't know about the spare key they had made, and was busted. My husband took the key right then, and I ended up changing the locks, only for my mother-in-law to mention the new locks a few weeks later. The only way for her to know was if she had another copy too, because I bought the same doorknob. Holy crap, that made my blood boil and run cold at the same time. Didn't know that could happen. WTF is wrong with these parents thinking they can come and go from grown adults' kids' homes as they please. I would have cussed someone up one side and down the other for this BS. Get the keys, change the locks without telling her, install a camera, and wait for her to try to get in the house. You get to see the look on her face and have proof of attempting to break in. Oh my god, yes. Counseling, counseling, and counseling, now for you and your significant other. This is exactly how the rest of your life is going to be unless significant other can grow a spine. Do it now. Do not marry until significant progress has been made. To recap, you left, agreed to come back if significant other got the keys back, and are now unsure if they have it in them. They are putting their fear of their mum and her fifis over you. This will be your life. I feel like I keep reading stories in this sub where people are so frustrated and vehement about their disdain for their just no's, and yet the first time they need a free babysitter or free dog sitter or money for their wedding, etc., they get themselves right embedded in the same problems again. If you are taking a stand, you have to do it despite the occasional convenience or financial benefit, or else you are just running the hamster wheel problem of your own creation. Yes, that's true, but not out of convenience. My mother-in-law wants to dog sit and pushes for it. My partner wants her to as well, to keep her happy. I've tried to have other paid people do it, but it comes over as spiteful of me when I've tried to put a boundary there, and so I capitulated, as I have done with many things, to keep the peace. I realize this has to end, but it's a tricky, sticky mess, and I feel quite alone and small when I try to sort it out. Edit. Thanks so much for your suggestions. Consensus seems lock changes and cameras. Couple of good trap ideas in there. Having a big fight with OH right now, so we'll update properly later, but thanks again everyone. And unfortunately there was no more update. And our last post is by a new OP, titled, "She's been a cheat this entire time," / "I miss you being a part of the family." I just kind of thought it was a funny 2-in-1 story that happened. So I had a post on here about a year ago about my boyfriend's mum that continued to make comments on how beautiful our kids would be because we were an IR couple, black mixed woman and white guy, but hoped the kids wouldn't get any visible black features. She added on more microaggressions, leading to mid/low contact from me. We eventually broke up, completely unrelated to this mother a few months back, but we're still actually good friends. After the breakup, I still had a ton of mutual friends, including his mum on social media, which wouldn't be a big deal since I rarely post or check stuff anyways. A few months ago, they had the Dolly Partons challenge. My male cousin, that's basically my annoying younger brother, jokingly posted it with pictures of us, him and I, together from obvious family gatherings, holiday decorations, other people in the background, etc. I see it, laugh, and we banter, as always, then I go back to work. My BFF texts me while saying, have I checked the post in a while, because ex-mother-in-law is going crazy. I check and she's literally calling me every word under the sun. Before I can chime in, X, our friends, and his sister comment that it's my cousin. She says I'm a lying bear, and we can't be cousins because we don't look alike. We actually look alike if you look at our faces. It's just I'm brown-skinned like my dad's side. She then says she knew I'd always go back to racial slur. All I do is report and block her and go about my day. Later, I found out she was friends with her co-workers on Facebook that saw it and reported her to the HR department. Ex-sister-in-law mentions she attempted to run a smear campaign against me that failed, since I was the favorite potential in-law to the rest of the family. Fast forward to today. I hadn't heard or saw her for months. I decided, hey, let's attempt to go to the store. I saw the line and noped it right out of there. Luckily for me, I ran into her right as I was walking back out. We see each other, and I hate my manners right now. I wave, say hello, and am awkwardly about to say bye. She basically runs, hugs me, and says how much she misses me being part of the family. I say, from our last exchange, I figured you wouldn't want to have such a lying tramp in your family since I went back to race that she used as a slur with my I didn't forget that crap face. She drops the smile for 5 seconds before saying it was an honest mistake and how much she misses me. That she hates X's new girlfriend, who's a sweetheart, while listing everything the girlfriend does. That originally was JustnoMIL's wet dream list. She then asks would I come over for the usual St. Patrick celebrations, though they've been cancelled where we live, in an attempt to get X and I back together. I say no thank you, and text X a warning text about his mother. Come to find out, she's been trying to ruin the new girlfriend for weeks now, and he says he can't let her ruin another good one away. Edit 1. Just to add, X had a spine while we were together, and the breakup was unrelated to his mum. However, the social media thing, it kind of cemented it for me in breaking up. Since we were still in that awkward, we love each other, maybe we should try to make this work stage. What a shame that it took losing you for him to decide to put his girlfriend first. The breakup was kind of more a future goals issue versus his mum, to be honest. I've always wanted to move somewhere else. The job I want, I'll need an advanced degree, and it'd make more sense to live in a location while in grad school to build contacts. X already kind of has his great job in his field, and he's already loved our hometown. Really, if it hadn't been for that, we'd likely still be together, potentially engaged. Both him and his family were quick to actually shut down a ton of stuff that she'd say sometimes before I could actually reply back. Heck, her own family loved me sometimes more than her. I'm sorry it didn't work out. It's okay. Some things change, and while I'm not one to hold hope he'll eventually want to move here or me back home, we'll see what the future holds. That being said, I don't want to deal with his mum, even though she's not nearly as bad as some I've seen here. You dodged a bullet with her. What a crazy lady. And how disrespectful is it to try and set your kid up with their ex? Extremely disrespectful. Also, I thought it was so weird because she not necessarily hated me beforehand, but would make jabs of what kind of girl she'd want X with. I've met the new girlfriend who is lovely and basically seems just like JustnoMIL wanted him with. In a good way. So it's weird now that she hates those traits. It's because she'll hate anyone, animal, vegetable, or mineral that takes his attention away from her. Maybe. It's just a very weird dynamic. If we're honest, his dad was more of the caretaker than she was. Her job afforded her to retire early. Red pretty much fired her and gave her full retirement. And since she is just looking to have her children and their kids all on her without putting effort beforehand. I love that you called her out on the crap she said. It's a long time coming, to be honest. I've always been a tad quieter if I know someone is a bit more abrasive than I am, though I'm pretty blunt myself, but I can't forget what she said about my family. Now that it's over, I'm mad I didn't say more. I think it was perfect. Had you said more, it could have become heated and given her justification for saying how mean you are. You called her out and can still hold your head high because you didn't add fuel to the fire. Nothing better. Our first post is titled, Mother-in-law Gets What She Always Wanted, but Not the Way She Wanted It. So, my mother-in-law was always a big fan of Turkish and Arabic dramas. She's the definition of white. We live in a fairly white country, but she obsesses over these dramas. Every time we come to visit them, she's watching some show and comparing me to the character from these shows. It's her favorite thing to do. She always talks about how they got everything right in these countries, mainly that it's the daughter-in-law who moves on to the husband's family and has to be her new family's maid, can't say anything rude to her in-laws, etc. I'm always compared to some secondary envy of main character, probably the first wife of main romantic interest characters. God, do all these dramas have the same story? She also talks a lot about how these women are much prettier than the local thin-haired wimpy girl. That means me, lol. And how she'd like to be one of these mother-in-laws from the shows, drowning in her son's love and support, and how much she'd want her other sons to marry a girl like that. Well, last weekend's family dinner was a surprise. First of all, she wasn't happy at the very start when we arrived. Turns out her youngest son invited his girlfriend. Mother-in-law said with the most disgusting tone, and he had the gut to say, "I like her." For the rest of the day, she wouldn't shut up about how disrespectful her son was for not telling her about this girlfriend earlier, and how she knows beforehand it would be some stupid airhead farm girl from his uni. I guess I have to say that none of us knew he was dating someone, even the enabler brother, who was pretty close to the younger brother. So we're preparing food, listening to these rants, when my dear husband asks, "Yeah, but what's her name?" And mother-in-law replies with, "I don't know." "So, your son wants you to meet his girlfriend, and you didn't even bother to ask her name?" When confronted about that, she said, "It's not like I want to know anyway." Yeah, about that. My dear husband texted his brother to tell us the name of the girl and when to expect them, and she has some unusual for our city, clearly Middle Eastern name. Like, I don't know, Firuz? You should have seen my mother-in-law's eyes being rounder than a pumpkin. Her jaw literally on the floor. The cooking was left on me while she Googles the hell out of this name and learned which culture it originated from, etc., etc. All this with comments like, "He, youngest brother, was always the smartest kid of mine, and I can't wait." Yeah, you called him a traitor like half an hour ago. Anyway, they finally arrive and mother-in-law storms to hug the girl, screaming her name in the most repulsive, sweet voice she could do. She takes her hand and shows her the house like she came to live with them. She almost instantly asks her where she's from, giving me a cringe attack. The girl does look really ethnic. Several rings in her ears, mehndi, long beautiful curly hair. There's not many girls like that in our city. By the time of dinner, mother-in-law invites this girl to sit beside her. She says that she wants to sit with her boyfriend, and mother-in-law replies, "We can move, the middle brother, and you can both sit with me." This girl straight up turns to her boyfriend and asks him, "Do you want to sit there?" And the younger brother was always shy and a little submissive. But guys, he was a different person that night. He said, "No, let's sit with my husband," and I have never seen him refusing his mother. What a day. The dinner, however, was horrible. Aside from all borderline racist statements and questions, mother-in-law complained about food constantly. I had to make most of it because she was too busy Googling the name origin and other stuff. It was a cycle. Bashing my food, praising the girlfriend because she definitely would have nailed the cooking because girls like her are taught to cook for their family. The girl in question remains calm, ignoring the remarks and answering questions. But as you all know, no dinner with mother-in-law will be drama-free. Very soon, she became bored and decided to do her favorite thing, berate me and her children. It started with my dear husband refilling my cup first, not hers, and ended up in her calling me fat and lazy for not refilling my own drink. This new girl says very loudly that she thinks I look good and mother-in-law is overreacting. You should have seen her face. Oh my god. She started talking about, "But in your culture, parents always come first." And the girl has the courage to say, "That's why I left." Wow. It didn't help, by the way. Mother-in-law is angry, looking for a reason to pick a fight. She starts berating my husband for abandoning her, then her middle son for being lazy, and finally, her youngest son. Basically, he's a literature major, and she started talking about how unmanly that is, how he will never have any money, how all his love for literature is stupid, and he is just waiting to die somewhere far from home from overdose. Honestly, I felt ashamed telling you this, but I got so used to this, I didn't even think of saying something. His girlfriend, though, she just said in such a calm but threatening manner to her, "Stop." This single word, then completely ignoring her. She turned to her boyfriend and asked him, "Is this the way she talks to you?" At this point, everybody is shocked, speechless, except her. She starts talking about how ungrateful he is, and his girlfriend just lifts her palms up, like, "Stop." I'm appalled. She asks her boyfriend again, "Do you want to leave?" And he says yes. Mother-in-law is screaming at this point, but to that girl it's no big deal. I'm absolutely terrified of my mother-in-law screaming. Everybody stays by the table while they stand up and start to leave. Mother-in-law also stands up and screams at them. But that girl acts like mother-in-law doesn't even exist. Her boyfriend is visibly scared but happy to go. They say goodbye to us and leave through the door in the fence, while screaming mother-in-law shields the main door with her body, thinking they will go through that door. It's funny now, but back then it was awful. We had to listen to the rest of the tirade while I cleaned the dishes, and also many racist slurs. I guess Middle Eastern girls are not the best women after all. By the time we got home, I was a mess. I'm still sad when I think about it. I wish I was like that girl. I'm happy for my dear husband's youngest brother and his girlfriend, but God, I wish I could protect my husband the same way and not be so scared of mother-in-law. But I feel like this dinner changed something in the way that I look at her. For my husband, too. He finally saw her ugly side and understood it's not normal. And I think next time I will have more courage to stand up for myself. Now on to some comments. Someone suggests, befriend her immediately. Have her teach you the ways of shutting that tramp down and shiny up your spine. It's obviously doable. None of you have to keep taking her crap. Good luck. To my shame, I didn't even think of that. I should do that. My husband and his younger brother are awfully distant, though. My husband moved out when his brother was 12 or so. This girl seems to be too different from me. I'm afraid she'll get bored with me, and I guess befriending them somewhere else from mother-in-law's house would be very hard, but I will talk to my dear husband about it. Honey, you're not giving yourself enough credit. I would reach out. Ask brother-in-law if he'll ask her if it's okay for you to contact her. Something like, "Hey girlfriend, my sister-in-law wants to know if you would be comfortable with her getting your number and texting you." Then I would just go from there. I would start trying to build a friendship from there. Don't count yourself out just yet, and don't decide that she doesn't like you until you have tried. And OP says, that last sentence. I should probably tell that to myself more often. Thank you. Someone else says, when I am intimidated by someone, I always ask myself, why? What can they do to me? If I'm intimidated because they're loud, I remind myself it's just noise, and proceed to tell them they can shove that bullcrap straight up their ass. If you're physically threatened, get out now. That is no way to live. If you are financially threatened, you need to put a plan together now to cut ties financially so that you can cut the toxic and abusive person out altogether. It may not be something you can accomplish overnight, but it can be accomplished. Just keep in mind that when you feel stuck and it seems hopeless, millions of people become independent every day, and you can too. And OP says, I'm very bad at dealing with stress and emotional stuff. I get upset very easily, and I can't stand seeing my husband angry or hurt, which happens when he tries to argue with mother-in-law and she starts manipulating and guilt-tripping him. It's just not my thing. I can't deal with that. All the arguments come to my mind much later, and in the moment, I am a giant ball of stress. Is therapy something you guys can do? Not necessarily because you need it for each other per se, but because you need help reframing the manipulating and guilt trips. She can try to manipulate and guilt trip all she wants, but it only works if you let it. A good therapist can help you figure out how to just not allow her crap to be effective. And OP replies, sadly, there are no good family therapists in our city. I wanted my husband to start going to therapy long ago, and it was very hard to find someone decent. In the end, he decided it's not worth it. I'll try again. Our next post is a two-parter by another OP, titled, Dreading the Holidays, Advice Wanted. So, it all came flooding back today. I've struggled for years with anxiety, depression, and any signs of confrontations. I feel guilty for ever saying anything at all. I can't argue with my partner, I have a hard time managing people, and I struggle to take up any kind of emotional space. This week, my cousin posted a meme about parenting. I can't even remember what it was, but my mother commented on it saying, "Oh, I never did corporal punishment on my kids. I just used guilt. It kept them empathetic and they think before they speak to anyone." To say the least, it hurt. Every day I talk to her, and every day I talk about my struggles with guilt, with anxiety, and all these years she brushed it off, saying it's because my dad left. But it isn't. It's because she did this. I responded to her post saying, no, but it does create adults who second-guess themselves and aren't capable of healthy relationships. Now she's angry with me, gives me one-word responses. I know she's gearing up to guilt me over the holidays. She already guilts me over the fact she doesn't like my spouse, over her not getting gifts. This year has been a real struggle with money, and she gave me a pass, so I didn't have to mail her anything for Mother's Day this year. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to speak up for myself and create boundaries. All holidays I spend separate from my spouse because they can't stand each other. I watch her treat my brother's spouse poorly and talk crap about her as well. I'm almost 30 and dreading children because my whole life she's tried to guilt me into naming my first one, if it's a girl, after her. I dread a wedding because she or my father will get into it with my spouse. Anytime I try to slightly address the situation, she says, well, no parent can do right, and I did what I needed to do because I love you. But does a woman who brags to people about abusing you on Facebook really understand love? She says I'm just being a victim or overdramatic, but I'm really not. I'm overwhelmed, because I never realized this was going on in my childhood until this moment. It never hit me that all my anxiety was because of how my mother manipulated and controlled me, and in some ways, still controls me. I turn 30 next month, and I want to take over my own life. I want to not feel anxiety and guilt. And in the comments, someone says, I hope this doesn't sound condescending, but I am so proud of you for standing up for yourself. Your comment to the post was spot on and perfect. I relate to your statement so much. I finally broke down and started therapy last year. I cannot recommend this enough. It has completely changed my life, and I'm learning to give myself permission to have thoughts and feelings outside of guilt and over-empathizing with others. Keep up the good work. You are headed in the right direction. Stay firm during the holidays and keep trusting yourself. Go you. And OP replies, not condescending at all. I truly appreciate it. I'm just overwhelmed. I feel like a fog has been lifted, but at the same time I continue to revert back to second-guessing myself. Thinking I'm being dramatic or always worried I'm overreacting. I think it's really difficult to rewire thinking that's been ingrained into you since childhood. You'll need tools and practice, and unfortunately, you'll spend a lot of mental energy getting to a good place where it just becomes habit. But it's so worth the work. Therapy helped for me, as well as some of the popular self-help books out there. Keep going, you'll get there. Oh, OP, good for you for standing up for yourself. But, you can't choose her over your spouse, you really just can't. Your spouse is who you will grow old and die with. He comes first, always. And that's the case when you have a mother who wasn't a manipulative POS. She does not deserve you, and your spouse does not deserve to be set aside for her. She gave you permission not to buy her a gift? That breaks my heart for you, OP. You deserve so much better than her. Is therapy an option for you? Can you check out the resources in the sidebar? And OP replies, I've written down several of the books. I'm a librarian. I think I can get a hold of most of them. And the therapy there is an option on campus. I'm hoping when my spouse finds a job, we'll have some extra money and I can go to therapy. There is a sliding scale option in my state, so that's definitely a plus. Use all the resources you have. You and your spouse deserve so much better. And the second post is an update to the first one, titled, The Holidays Were Just As I Feared, Update, Advice Wanted. So, to continue on the saga, things turned out just as I feared, but in that, I had a revelation. The week during Christmas went relatively well, all the way until Christmas Eve. My spouse has been staying at his cousin's because he wanted guy time. I kept my things at my parents' house, but I was rarely ever there. Mostly spending time with a friend, but still dutifully taking my mother where she wanted to go. On Christmas Eve, my partner and I were spending time together at his cousin's, who was preparing to go with his spouse and baby to his spouse's family event. I texted my mother to tell her that my partner might come with me to have dinner with them. She informed me that they had a family meeting and it would be awkward, and he wasn't invited. I paused. For some reason, this was the moment of truth for me. He's my partner, the person I chose to be with for the rest of my life. My parents and brother ganged up on me and forced me into a corner. I ate my dinner with my partner and returned to my parents to get my things. My brother and parents were so smug. They had thought they'd won and it made me sick. I'm 30 and they still do this to me. I feel like it's my fault that I'm allowing this, but I'm struggling to break free of this pattern. They did their typical guilt, forced me to stay later than usual with their usual guilt, waiting until 9 p.m. to open gifts. No regard for me, but I still stayed. Looking back, I hate myself for staying even that late, but afterward, I packed my things without a second word and left. I haven't been back since. I choose my spouse. Since then, I've started therapy, trying to find a way through everything going on in my head. I feel guilty. I feel like I owe them, but I just can't handle the guilt and condescension anymore. Them talking negatively about my spouse, having family meetings about why my spouse can't come with me to a dinner on a holiday they hold to such a standard. I recently even told my mother that it worries me that she doesn't see how emotionally abusive the environment is after joking to my brother's best friend that he was the son she'd always wished she had, to which she replied, well, one day when you have kids, you can F them up how you want to. Until then, don't pretend that you know what you're talking about. So I was just dismissed. I'm trying to learn how to have boundaries and how to enforce them. I'm trying to unwrap the guilt and learn how to confront not only a mother who guilts, but a father who micromanages and yells to get his point across. Both are dismissive that this isn't healthy, as well as a brother who is continuing the cycle and a carbon copy of my parents. So far my goals are learn how to take up emotional space, stop talking to my mother on the phone every day, and learn how to speak up for myself and my spouse. Edit. I truly appreciate all of you and your kind words about being gentler on myself. I've been trying to work through my emotions by journaling because sometimes I second guess myself, or there's a good day and I think maybe I'm wrong. But you're right. I have been programmed. I think I'm going to print out this thread today and add it to my journal to remind me there's others out there and I'm not going through this alone. I do agree that I need to cut contact so I can work on me, and hell, get to know myself and deprogram. I have a best friend that my mother vilified when we were younger because she couldn't control her, who I've recently reconnected with. I think anytime I want to contact my mum by impulse, I'll reach out to her and ask how her day is going instead. She grew up with me through a lot of this and knows what I'm going through, which helps a lot. And someone replies in the comments, I read both your stories. I was yelled at until I cried in every lecture as a kid. This sometimes would take up to 3 hours for something dumb. The guilt game was high and anxiety-inducing, explains my parents' discipline style. Please PM me or use Flare, live advice wanted. We are here to help, coach, teach, reassure whenever something is immediate. Christmas happened, and it's bullcrap and it sucks. You already know that. Now you know that it doesn't feel good being guilted or giving in, so try something different. Don't stay over there for Christmas or holidays anymore overnight. Make these first boundaries done through text and ignore calls. You will be sucked in on a call. Your mother knows this. She'll push for it and guilt you to call to guilt you more. Say, Mother, I will not be spending dinners with you without my husband. This is not up for discussion, and follow through. If you don't follow through, you enable her and teach her tantrums work. Think of it like raising a child. I understand you don't have any right now. I do, and I am a preschool teacher. Because I'd rather teach appropriate behaviors from the start than correct just no's as adults, lol. But if you think logically about kids, they have feelings. Big feelings. And their feelings are valid. They are allowed to be angry, hurt, upset, frustrated. We just aren't allowed to have that feeling hurt others. Her feelings are hurting you. That's not okay, and the only way to stop that is to discipline it. If any of my kids hurt another, they take some time and play by themselves for a bit until they're ready to apologize. And they understand apologize means ready to work on it. You got this. You're strong, and you are in control of your life. Your husband is a saint. Putting up with this BS tells me you are something really remarkable and special to him. Hold on to that love. It'll carry you. And OP replies, I truly appreciate your support. The entire group's support, because I know this won't be easy. I had something similar as a kid. They would put me on trial after every time I dressed a certain way. Too much black upset my dad. Or if I or my friends said something they didn't like, they sat in their recliners like they were thrones and lectured me for hours from the age of 6, when my mum married him, until 19. I wasn't allowed friends outside of the home until I moved out for college. Any friend that objected to anything or had an opinion was brought to my attention. I was yelled at, and they were not welcomed back. I think that's why I struggle so much with investing in people. I don't know how to bond, but the spouse has been patient, and I couldn't deny our natural chemistry. I talked to spouse about us setting up our own traditions. Whereas I don't want him to miss out on his cousin time, I believe I'm going to rent out an Airbnb and enjoy time to myself. I could even focus on writing. There are some gorgeous cabins nearby. I've never been invested in holidays. They always bring out the worst in people, and so we may go back to visit. I moved 2 states away with him. But I will not stay the night or be submerged in it, and I will not visit them at their home anymore. If he isn't welcomed, then I won't be either. I'll meet them out for dinner at most. That sounds like a wonderful plan. You sound very sweet and caring and considerate of your husband's wants and needs too. Smiley face. Posted by user Killin13, titled, My neighbor has basically booby-trapped his front yard. What can I legally do about it? So I live in a house in a South Florida suburb where the streets are wide enough to allow street parking, legally, for guests, as most houses only have a small driveway to fit a couple cars tops. This has never been an issue in the 3 years I've lived here, but lately, my neighbor has gotten really obsessed about people driving up his lawn and scuffing his grass when they park, and this week decided to do something about it. His grass goes all the way to the street, and when people turn in to park, they sometimes drive maybe a foot onto his grass if they're really careless. I've always told my guests to park away from his house because I know how angry he gets about it and I don't want the hassle. However, said neighbor has now placed several rebar posts with tops sharpened to tips right at the edge of his grass, and they're low enough in that they're hard to spot if you're driving by or unfamiliar with the street. I asked the neighbor about it when I was walking my dog, and he said that if people are going to be dicks and drive on his lawn, they deserve to get their tires punctured. I have to assume that there is no way this is legal, but what exactly can I do about it? Is this something I should call the city about, or is it a police matter? Quote, however, said neighbor has now placed several rebar posts with tops sharpened to tips. End quote. Call police non-emergency line and say, yes, my neighbor has put punji sticks made out of rebar in his yard for the purpose of injuring people and property who trespass. Your neighbor is also going to be 100% liable for any damage his idiocy caused to anyone's car or person. I may phrase it slightly differently, but thanks for the laugh and the advice. The laugh will be you watching your city end this dude if a city or EMS vehicle hits one of the spikes, or utility worker, or literally anyone else. Almost makes me want to see this happen, but I figure it's better to stop it before it happens. Seeing a police car pop a tire would be funny. Seeing a kid impaled falling off their bike? Not so much. I would present that latter situation when calling the police. I told them it was a definite hazard for cars and pedestrians when I called them, so hopefully they do something about it sooner rather than later. Call police immediately. Setting a man trap is an indictable offense. And yes, as others have said, he will be responsible for all damages to property or human beings caused by his illegal man traps. Call the police and report this before some kid slips and falls on an effing metal spike. Here is an important element everyone needs to know. The neighbor may think it's his grass, but suburban properties rarely begin at the edge of the paved street. There is something called a right-of-way, which the municipality owns. Private property lines are typically several feet back from the edge of a paved street. It may have grass on it, but it's typically not his grass. This zone is for the municipality to run pipes, cables, etc., or they can reserve the right to widen the street at any point. A boundary survey will show this, and any city worker who comes out to inspect will understand this. Booby-trapping his own lawn behind his property line is bad enough, but setting traps in the city's right-of-way is a clear-cut violation of ordinance. Edit. I've called the police non-emergency line from work, and they said they would send someone out to take a look and talk to the neighbor if need be. I'll update when something happens. And now to the update. I got home late last night and the posts were still there. So after walking my dog, I called the police non-emergency line again, and they said they'd send a car out early in the morning. I'm working from home today, and sure enough, around 8 a.m., a cop car pulled up to my neighbor's house. 2 officers stepped out and kicked around his front yard where the posts were before going up to knock on his door. There was about a 5-minute discussion where my neighbor looked quite agitated. Couldn't hear what was said. But he came out with some gloves on and pulled all the posts out while the cops watched, and he seemed to be shouting at them. The officers took the posts, and then one handed him something. Not sure if a citation, pamphlet, or something else, and drove away. Neighbor left for work and a half about 30 minutes later. Not sure if it's the last thing the neighbor will try, but at least that hazard is gone. Thanks to everyone for the advice. Posted by user Hello Friends, titled HOA levy fines even though not part of HOA. Location, Kissimmee, Florida. Situation. My parents had an existing fence on their property that was falling apart. They tore the old fence and built the new one without a building permit. A couple of months later, they receive a notice from HOA stating that they are in violation of the governing document because they had fencing installed without filing a building permit with Osceola County, or notifying the Architectural Control Committee as per the deed restrictions requirements. My parents are not part of the HOA. The notice also includes the following statement. Additionally, our records indicate that you are not a member of the redacted Homeowners Association. We highly suggest that you complete the enclosed application and submit this with the annual dues of deducted. They were invited to attend an HOA meeting to contest these fines. However, they were unable to attend due to an emergency. Since they did not attend the meeting, the HOA levied a $1,500 fine and planned to file a property lien against their home. My parents tried to get more information, but the number provided does not return their calls. At the moment, I am trying to pull deed records from the county to determine if there are any deed restrictions. I plan to help the folks to contact the HOA representatives if they do another meeting regarding the fine. Questions. Can the HOA impose fines if my parents are not part of the HOA? Or is it dependent on what the deed restriction says? It just appears counterintuitive to not be part of an HOA, yet they have to still receive approval for a fence regardless of deed restrictions. Outcome: we are hoping to remove the fine. Thanks in advance for any help. Edit: I received clarifying information from the folks. HOA has yet to put lien on the property, they only threatened. And Funk Doctor in the comments says, an HOA cannot fine someone if their lot isn't part of the association, full stop. And that addendum you mentioned makes it seem pretty clear that they do not think that you are part of it either. If your search shows that there really are no deed restrictions, then you don't have to have the fine rescinded since it's not valid. If your search does show something, contact a lawyer immediately, as you will need pro help. The very fact they apparently issued a fine to a unit they know isn't part of the association is pretty outrageous on its own. I was finally able to find the deed. However, it was only one page, and the document contained the following. This deed is not effective until redacted. This indenture made the redacted day of redacted AD redacted by redacted Secretary, Department of Housing and Urban Development of Washington, D.C., herein called the grantor, whose post office address is redacted, to parent. Witnesseth that the grantor, for and in consideration of the sum of redacted and other valuable considerations, receipt whereof is hereby acknowledged, hereby grants, bargains, sells, aliens, premises, releases, conveys, and confirms unto the grantee all that certain lands situate in Osceola County, State of Florida, viz. Lot redacted, and a bunch of other boring legal jargon. Not a lawyer, but that looks to be just a part of the HUD purchase contract. I had a similar statement in my FHA purchase agreement for my home. If your parents kept all of their mortgage paperwork and there was no mention of an HOA within it, then they need to contact their real estate agent and/or title insurance to determine if that house is indeed part of the HOA. The county deed office might be able to help as well. If the HOA is trying to put a lien against your parents' house, I suggest you find a real estate attorney. If you are not part of the HOA, but were not notified when purchasing the house, then you could just try using your title insurance. I did not even think about title insurance. Thanks. I contacted my parents to call their title insurance. Hopefully it can shed some light. In the meantime, I told the folks to assemble any sales document for review. Update 1. I found the deed, however it's one page. I'm not sure if this is typical for HUD purchased property. There is some language that concerns me regarding restrictions, which I commented below. I understand that any comments and advice received is not legal advice. Update 2. I found the record plat, and also saw no mention of HOA. Nonetheless, I told my parents to call the title company for more details. I will sort through their sales documentation later tonight. Update 3, 3:15 p.m. Unfortunately, I found the restrictions document/covenant titled Restrictions on Real Estate for Redacted Subdivision, and my parents' lot/record plat. I found the documents on the county recording website. No building shall be erected, placed, or altered on any lot until the construction plans and specifications and a plan showing the location of the structure have been approved by the Architectural Control Committee as to the quality of workmanship and materials, harmony of external design with existing structures, and as to location with respect to topography and finish grade elevation. And that's the end of it, I guess. Posted by user DarksideHS, titled Mother-in-Law is Suing for Visitation, New York. Today I was served with papers to go to family court so my mother-in-law can have visitation with my children. A bit of backstory. My mother-in-law is mentally unstable. She believes everyone is hacking her, me included. She's extremely paranoid and tries to brainwash my kids, tells them I'm hacking her, that climate change is a hoax, and that crystals have healing power. Admittedly, the last two are no big deal. The first one is a huge deal. The wife and her mother had a falling out over the accusing me of being hacked into her phone. My mother-in-law expressed interest in seeing the kids. We told her if she wanted to see our children, she had to do so under our supervision. She then began gaslighting my wife by telling her that me and my wife both have borderline personality disorder and told this to the entire family. Does my mother-in-law have any right to take my children out of my supervision? Does she have a case? Should I get a lawyer? And if I should get a lawyer, how can I get one if I'm broke? Any and all advice would be extremely helpful. So, New York apparently does have grandparents' rights laws that are generous to grandparents. I suggest getting a lawyer. Also, gather any and all evidence that you are not trying to prevent her from seeing the kids in a supervised situation. Invitations to have her over to your home or to join the family on an outing, etc. And OP replies, I have a text directly from my wife to my mother-in-law that says we are not comfortable with having her taking the kids alone, and if she wanted to see them, she had to do so with our supervision. Print it out, and any other relevant texts and emails, and any recent photos of her and the kids, during holidays, etc. If she's speaking on the phone with the kids, print phone logs. If she sends the kids gifts, clothes, or mail, print recent photos of the kids with the items, to show that you are actually giving your kids the stuff. This will help show that you are not preventing a relationship, which really is, at its core, is what grandparents' rights are about. A lot of parents don't leave their kids in the care of other adults, so it's not an unreasonable or unusual thing. Kyle T. Sr. says, so you offered the opportunity for her to see the kids under supervision, but she declined. I'm guessing by this petition that she had declined. The fact you offered her a chance to see the kids and she declined may undermine her grandparents' rights suit. Update. So we went to the court for our initial hearing in February. I asked for dismissal, citing Troxel v. Granville. The judge agreed that we were within our rights. However, she couldn't grant a dismissal because my mother-in-law requested an attorney. The judge advised she didn't qualify for an appointment lawyer, so she should seek representation through elder law. My mother-in-law begins raising her hands and waving them around, asking if she could be allowed to speak. She states in court that me and my wife bully, abuse, belittle, and swear around the children constantly. The first three are outright lies, and the fourth, so effing what? She also stated that she never mentioned once being hacked, or being obsessed that she was hacked, and that my oldest daughter was the one obsessed with being hacked and spying. The judge made no comments and advised her that we weren't keeping her away from the children, and that she should seek relief by visiting them under our supervision. Fast forward to a week before the hearing, we have to meet with a law guardian for the children. We show the law guardian all the insane conspiracy theory texts, and the texts where she accuses me of hacking her phone. She spoke with the children, and we took our leave. The paperwork we received stated that my mother-in-law showed her a much different conversation. My mother-in-law had deleted the texts that made her look bad and copy-pasted several from my wife that made my wife look like a bully and that she was harassing my mother-in-law. The children outright denied any bullying and abuse, and stated to the law guardian that my mother-in-law makes them uncomfortable because she is constantly yelling at them. When they want to leave, she won't let them go, and she won't stop talking about who is hacking her. So, obviously, she supports our position. In the hearing, my lawyer asked for dismissal, and requested we be paid our legal fees by mother-in-law as the petition was brought in bad faith. My mother-in-law's appointed attorney couldn't withdraw and refile an amended petition because mother-in-law wouldn't let her. So the judge dismissed and awarded us our legal fees. I haven't seen the judgment yet, but it's my understanding that it was dismissed with prejudice. However, my mother-in-law doesn't live in reality and is going to file another petition alleging that I've brainwashed my children. I wish that were true. They never listen to me. So I may have another update for you all shortly, but for now, enjoy my victory. Our next post is by user StealthMan13, titled, "My mother said she would kill herself the day I graduate high school, WA. She told me this 4 or 5 years ago, that when I graduate high school, that she would put a gun to her head and kill herself the night after I graduate. We have never had guns in the household, but the time is coming in a few months for me to graduate. To say that this has had a toll on my mental health would be an understatement, but that's not what I'm here for. Is there anything that I can do preemptively to have her not commit suicide? Even if it's a threat, I would rather be safe than sorry. Thank you for the help." Edit, I just woke up for work. I'm reading through the comments now. I have to work now. Give me 2 hours when I'm on my break and I'll reply to the rest of you all. Thank you for the kind words. Begatapilla says, "If you think she is actually serious, an involuntary commitment that ends up in her being mad at you is better than a corpse. Does she have any close friends?" Not really. She doesn't go out at all for anything other than work. While I do agree, I could see her retaliating out of spite. I would be more concerned if she continued to threaten this over the years versus a one-time threat 4 or 5 years ago. The length of time since the threat prevents you from doing anything legally. I recommend finding a counselor. A family therapist would be great, to discuss your concerns, and then have some family sessions so you have help processing this threat with your mother. Your school therapist may be able to help you set this up. It's sad that you've held on to those words and kept that pain to yourself for so long. It must have been very scary to hear that. Sometimes people forget when they're having a bad day, the hurtful words they use to express pain in the moment are heard in a way that is felt months and years later. I suspect at the time she made that threat, that what she was really trying to say was that she was afraid. Afraid of change, afraid of being alone, afraid of new roles, and afraid of launching you. Speaking to those fears and setting healthy boundaries will encourage her to find healthier ways to express herself. No matter what happens, this is not your fault. I'll be thinking of you and your family and sending you all good juju. Congratulations on your upcoming graduation. Not a lawyer, come Monday, go talk to your school's guidance counselor and ask that a police officer be present for the discussion. It's important that the guidance counselor be aware of what kind of a weight you are dealing with, and the police, because they will be able to conduct a welfare check on your mom. It may seem like a betrayal, but it's the most that can be expected of you. And while this may seem like a bitter statement, there is nothing you or anyone can do to actually stop her if she commits to it. The most that can be done is to show her that people are aware and want to help her if she chooses to accept the help. In an extreme case, she can be involuntarily committed to a psych ward, and that's usually for a week. It's an unpleasant process, but the goal of it is to separate the individual from the stresses that are making the symptoms worse, and to help establish a care plan to get them back on the right track. Not saying that this is going to happen, but I want to make you aware of the possibilities so you aren't caught off guard. On a side note, before going to do all of that, try talking to your mum and bringing it up. Let her know that you love her and are there for her and want to make sure she's doing okay. Let her talk about her feelings, and even suggest going to family counseling or seeing a therapist. Some mums don't handle an empty nest very well. They devote their entire life to raising their children, and when they are gone, it can leave an empty feeling and lack of purpose. Not to throw an undue burden on your shoulders, but sometimes an open conversation helps more than anything. Good luck, OP, and congrats on coming close to finishing high school. Update. Hey, well, some time has passed since I made the original post, and an update is here. Well, I have some good news. After I made the original post, I talked with my mother about the situation and what was going on. Once I confronted her about it, she started crying. She said that she had fulfilled her purpose in life, and it's time for me and my brother to fulfill ours. I disagreed and told her to stop with that and made her a promise. If she kills herself, then her purpose would not be fulfilled. She wouldn't be able to meet the expectation that I want her at my college graduation, or at my wedding, or at any other celebrations of achievements. I told her that I need her to stay alive, and that it's not negotiable no matter what, as her simply being somewhere gives me hope for future endeavors. Last Monday, I graduated from high school with my friends, and finished my first year of college at the same time. It was a good time, and I finally get some breathing room for a little bit. I went home, hung out with some people, and then went to bed. To this day, she's alive and well, doing what she would normally do on a day-to-day basis. I wanted to wait a week to ensure everything would be okay, and I'm glad to report that it is. The day that I made the original post, it was closing night of a school play for which I was a part of. With many people in that theatre department being on Reddit, a couple of people put the dots together and know that I posted that. To those whom I know IRL, I'm doing okay, and everything will be alright. You know where and how to contact me if you need me, and I love you guys. To everyone, thank you guys for the kind messages, both on the thread and in PMs. I'm thankful for even in a legal subreddit, people are kind and caring. Love you guys. Finally, if you're feeling suicidal, feeling like you don't belong or going through a hard time, there are places to go to get help. Not only on Reddit or any other social media, but through phone calls and facilities that you can go to. I know it's posted everywhere, always, but if you need someone immediately, at any given time, please call the lifeline below. Thank you, and with love. Posted by user Karma Chromatic, titled, Pharmacy messed up my insurance and now $25,000 is in collections. Hi all, I'm not sure how to deal with this. I have been trying for 3 months now to solve my issues to no avail. I was living in California, USA recently. I was approved for hepatitis C treatment by my doctor, a 3-month course of Epclusa. The first month I had Cobra Anthem insurance from a job that I had recently left. They covered the first $25,000 prescription. I got a letter in the mail shortly after saying my company would not be working with that insurance, and if I want to keep my Cobra, I would have to switch to Kaiser, not in-network for my specialists I was seeing. I got new insurance through Covered California, Oscar. New insurance began 1st of April, and I let the pharmacy know. But for some reason, someone put my next RX through on my Anthem insurance, which had already ended. Also for some reason, Anthem paid the claim. I was not made aware of this until month 3, when I tried to get my RX, and the pharmacy let me know that they didn't work with Oscar. So I found a new pharmacy and completed treatment. Fast forward 2 months, and I received a letter from Anthem saying I owed them $25,000 for a claim they covered. I called and asked them why they would possibly be covering that when I didn't even have an active account at the time, and to please make sure the account wasn't sent to collections, and they assured me that there was a 300-day hold before collections was considered. First of all, I don't understand how the claim was approved when the insurance was inactive. Secondly, the pharmacy had been given updated information, yet put it on the wrong insurance. Thirdly, I was just sent mail from a collections company 100 days in, saying they had been contracted to collect from me. I've talked in circles to both insurance companies and the pharmacy. No one wants to take responsibility for their errors, and obviously I don't have $25,000 lying around. I had to do covered Cali for God's sakes. I'm not sure what the next step is, because they can't reverse the claim or put it on the correct insurance since Oscar doesn't work with this pharmacy. Anthem agrees they should have let the farm know the account wasn't active, and the pharmacy knows they messed up by sending the claim to the wrong insurance. They accept they messed up, but that's where the conversation just ends. Oops. Oh well. Sorry this was so long. It's really stressing me out to have this looming over me every day. Does anyone have any advice so I'm not on the hook for this surprise, huge bill that wouldn't have occurred without this comedy of errors? And edit. I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank everyone for all their advice here. I haven't gotten anywhere yet, obviously, but just even hearing the options I have has been an astounding weight off my chest. I deeply appreciate that so many people have chimed in here. And MayRay86 says, I've worked in pharmacy for 10 years, but I work in Arizona, so maybe things are different. Pharmacy bills insurance instantly. They don't bill after services rendered like the doctor's office. There should be no way for them to bill your insurance unless the pharmacy put in an incorrect file date on the prescription, which would be fraud. Or, you still had active coverage on your previous insurance. The only other option is that your previous insurance screwed up your inactivation date on their end. Thank you for your response. The pharmacy said that Anthem never made them aware the insurance was inactive, even though I did tell them it was. That means that in Anthem's computers, you were still active. Do you know what date your prescription was filled, and your inactivation date through Anthem? I'm just curious if there's a discrepancy. Insurance ended 31st of the 1st, 2018. I have a letter stating such from both the insurance and my previous employer. The RX was filled 17th of the 4th, 2018. I've never worked on the actual insurance side, but what I'm taking from this is that insurance didn't inactivate you on that given date. Even though you told the pharmacy that you no longer had the insurance and should not have run it, your claim should have been rejected in the system by your previous insurance with it stating that you no longer have coverage. Generally, pharmacy is the middleman. We are stuck between doctors and insurance and are usually the bearer of bad news. Usually, if something like this happens, they will eat the cost because it was their error. In billing and insurance, you clearly asked them not to. But $25,000 is obviously pricey, and it's insurance asking for the money, not the pharmacy. I'm not sure what kind of pharmacy you're using, but have you gone higher up than the pharmacy manager? With the insurance, have you discussed the activation discrepancy? That is on their end and not yours. Also, sometimes insurances are willing to do one-time overrides at pharmacies that they are not contracted with, or patient compensations. Have you talked to your current insurance about your situation? See if they are in any way willing to accommodate you because you had coverage, but there was an error in billing. And OP replies, it was Express Scripts, so over the phone. I will try to talk to someone higher up at all three places, and thank you for your response. If you are working or still under COBRA coverage, you need to contact your HR rep and or benefits administrator to have them help you. They should be able to contact the account representative at Anthem and Kaiser to work to confirm termination and start dates and to reprocess the claim in both systems. If you cannot get anyone to help, then send a letter, certified mail, to both insurance companies, laying out the situation with as many names and dates of those who you have spoken to as possible, and photocopies of your insurance termination letter and claims. Do not send in the originals. And also state if this matter is not resolved within a month, you will be submitting a complaint to the Insurance Commissioner of California. Thank you. I will do as much as I can in regards to that. The main issue is, normally they have no problem reversing the claim, but since Oscar is not in network with Accredo, They cannot reverse the claim because Oscar will not pay out of the network, even though I have explained to Oscar countless times. Update. Well, this has turned into a very Merry Christmas after all. After attempting for 6 months to solve this problem, calling multiple times a week and basically just trying to explain to everyone with no results, I put in an official complaint to the Board of Insurance in California. I got a letter from Anthem, the company who sent me the bill, saying they will be covering the entire thing and they're sorry for the whole inconvenience. I received the letter yesterday, a literal Christmas miracle. Thank you for all your help. I'm so relieved that this has been resolved. Our next post is by user Cam Only, titled PA, Granting Easement for Landlocked Property, Questions. Below is a link to the property in question. We are looking at the 35 by 16 foot section in yellow. It is located in southwest PA. So as you can see, this is it white on the map, and this is it in real life, 180 degree flipped, and it's still circled. So basically, the part of Lot 14 below Lot 20 was a foreclosed house, referred to as FC home, that was foreclosed when I bought my house, referred to as my house, which is to the left. The other part of Lot 14 and also Lot 13 next to the word state. Someone finally purchased the FC home and now found out I landlocked their driveway as the garage and driveway directly connects to the yellow part of the map shown in the above pic. It is paved. As such, they are unable to get financing for the house without me granting easement. They have come to me asking for a permanent and transferable easement that they will maintain and are offering me $1 for it. First question is, should I grant the easement? Second is, what should I ask for in the easement? I figured them maintaining and repairing it, hold me harmless for anything that happens on the easement, them to pay any and all of the fees related to the easement, and updating of titles, etc., mandating that there is to be no parking there, only for ingress and egress, and that I have uninhibited access to my driveway 24/7 365. Make sure all of these conditions apply to not just me, but to the owner of my property in case I sell. Is there anything else I should ask for? And thirdly, $1 kinda seems like a slap in the face. My land works out to around 4.35 per square foot when I bought it, and the lot to the right of FC is listed for what amounts to 50 cents per square foot. Do I legally have to grant them easements, and what is a fair price to ask for this easement? Below is what their realtor sent me. Whereas the owners of blank property have for some time used a driveway is on the land of blank in order to gain access to blank alley as set forth in the plan of record in Plan Book Volume blank, page blank, and the parties desire to confirm the right to use this driveway and provide for the maintenance thereof. Now, therefore, in consideration of $1 and of good and valuable consideration and intending to be legally bound hereby, the parties do agree as follows. 1. Blank does hereby grant and convey unto blank a non-exclusive easement for ingress, egress, and regress over the driveway, as more particularly described on Exhibit C hereto. 2. The parties agree that the blank shall be solely responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the driveway in the condition in which it presently exists. 3. This easement is perpetual and shall run with the land. 4. As used herein, the singular includes the plural and the masculine includes the feminine. In witness whereof, the parties have executed this agreement on the date first above written. Any help is appreciated. Thanks. Not a lawyer. You need to take this to a real estate lawyer. I can't tell for sure from your description, but it looks like you need access to this area as well. I would personally sell land before giving an easement, and you might also want to look at whether there are other public roads they could access, which would reduce their chances of forcing an easement. And they need to pay for all of your attorney's fees too. That would be reasonable if OP was just reviewing it prior to signing. Personally, I do everything possible to avoid signing an easement agreement with shared maintenance. You never know if they're going to do something like storing heavy machinery on their property, which causes massive damage to the shared driveway when it is transported. And OP replies to one of those earlier comments saying, "Thanks for the reply. Yes, the upper end of my driveway uses this strip of land to access the alley, and I use it frequently to enter the property. If I sold it to them, I would have to have an easement to access the alley that way, so it really isn't a good idea for me." As others have said, you definitely want a real lawyer looking at this, not just an internet lawyer. That being said, you should probably pay close attention to the "that they will maintain" portion of the easement contract, and make sure that they are required to maintain it, rather than just allowed to maintain it. Not a lawyer, but just so you're aware, the $1 is not intended as a slap in the face to you. It is being done because, to be enforceable, a contract must have consideration, which means something of value. This is a very common way for people to add consideration to the contract without it actually being an intended payment. Doesn't make it not a slap in the face. OP's neighbor is asking for something of value, but not offering to pay anything substantive for it. OP can read into that what he or she will. I understand that. I responded based on the way I read it, which seemed as though OP thought he was offering him $1 as a fair trade, not as a way of simply adding consideration. I'm not in the business of selling land. My point was simply that he was not offering him $1 because he thought that's what it was worth, but instead to make the contract valid. No. He was offering $0 because he thought that's what it was worth, and it was bumped up to $1 to make the contract valid. The second part isn't a slap in the face, but the first part is. Update. So in the end, I offered $3,000 for this buyer. Then I hear nothing for about 4 months. Then a lawyer representing Freddie Mac contacts me and wants to make a deal, since the buyer backed out. I tell them, due to being ignored and getting tired of being in limbo, $10,000. To my surprise, they slowly, like federal government movements, agree without hesitation, and I sign papers exactly as they wrote it, with only name changes. And after a month, they release the check. The day it's released, I list the house and sell it within 45 days of listing for a nice profit over what I bought it for. Happy days, plus I got the easement money. About 6 months after the house is sold, I get served court papers. Freddie Mac is suing myself and the new owners for an invalid easement. I work away from home a large percentage of the year, so I have a general power of attorney over all of my finances, property, etc. for my wife and my mother. I was away at the time of the check signing, so I had my mother power of attorney the easement deal. The notary at my attorney had signed the easement deal as if I had personally appeared and signed it over, but all the signatures show my mother using power of attorney. The county recorder rejected the easement deal, leaving us in this situation, saying it was invalid. After some further talking with Freddie Mac and my attorney, they contact us that they are fine if I just come in and personally resign all the papers, even though the house is no longer mine. I resign everything, and 1 month later, I get court papers saying the case was dropped. Appears to be all settled now. Thanks for enjoying the roller coaster ride. And our last post is by user Egg Marie, titled, Ohio. Sister stole around a $4,500 necklace and pawned it for $50. First, I'm writing this for my friend since she doesn't have an account. Her sister stole a $4,500 necklace that was given to her by her deceased uncle from her dad's house and sold it to a pawn shop for $50. We don't know exactly when. Her sister claims it was months ago, but my friend got this in the mail. Date, January 18th, 2018. Legal note. To addressee on reverse side hereof. You are hereby notified that the time of your pledge, #blank, pawned with us, has expired. If said pledge is not redeemed, or the interest and storage charges paid up to date within 1 month from the above date, said pledge will be forfeited to the licensee, and licensee shall become vested with all rights, title, and interest in such pledge, and to dispose of as its own property in accordance with the law of the state of Ohio. Specified date of forfeiture, February 17, 2019. There was a receipt included, and the pawn shop should have her ID on record. Also, her mum and her sister have basically admitted to all of this in text messages and claim they're going to get the necklace back eventually. So, obviously, she wants to go to get the necklace back herself, since it's unlikely that her mum is going to do it, and file a police report. How exactly should we go about this? My plan is to go to the pawn shop, see what info they can give us, then go file the police report, then go back to the pawn shop, and ask how we can get the necklace back. We would prefer to not have to pay for the necklace, so we could pay for it and then have her mum pay us back. Also, what is likely to happen to her sister? This is honestly a really upsetting time for her and her family, and the top priority is getting the necklace back, and I personally would like her sister to face consequences for her actions, since this isn't the first time, and probably won't be the last time she's stolen from family. Thanks in advance. Diablo con Queso says, file a police report first. Inform them that you know the exact pawn shop that it's at, and ask the police how you would go about retrieving the stolen property. February 17th comes around, and the pawn shop may sell the necklace to someone else, potentially making it irretrievable. Act fast. We plan on going on Monday. Thank you for the advice. And edit, we physically can't go until then. We both have jobs and other life circumstances. I understand it's not ideal, but hey, that's life. Please stop yelling at me about it. Police stations are open past normal business hours here in Ohio. They'll take your report even if the banks won't cash our checks. BCR 2299 says, your friend needs to file a police report ASAP for the theft of the necklace. The police report then needs to be sent to the pawn shop to put it on notice that it is holding stolen property. Otherwise, the pawn shop will legally sell the necklace once the redemption period passes. And if they only gave $50 for it, they won't put a $4,500 price tag on it. Maybe 10% of that, so it will probably sell fast. Also, your friend needs to buy a safe and to put anything she values in it, since her sister is a multiple-time thief. If it's valued at over $2,500, it's a felony. Edit. Well, I went to work and missed all the action before the post got locked, so a few things. 1. Thank you all for the advice. 2. I got downvoted a lot for saying we were waiting until Monday, and even got a few messages telling me we obviously didn't care that much. We physically can't go until then. We both have jobs and other life circumstances, and honestly, that's really personal, and I don't think I need to explain why. I understand it's not ideal, but hey, that's life. Please stop yelling at me about it. And 3, the notice was on a postcard. No mail was opened. And for our update, 8 PM EST. Necklace has been returned, along with the receipt saying her sister sold it, then took it back. Still going to the police on Monday. Thanks for the help again. Alright, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it. As always, I want to do a huge shout out to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. You should be up on the screen now. I love you all, and I think every single one of you are amazing for supporting the channel in the way that you do. Again, thank you so much for supporting me. And again, if you did enjoy today's video, please do tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. All of your hot takes, opinions, whatever you think, really, whatever's going on in your life right now, I'd love to hear down in the comments below. Before I leave, I'd also like to announce that I'm going to start doing meme content again on the second channel. I know it's been a while, so click on the Markee head on the screen without the Australian flag behind him if you want to go see some memes. And as always, guys, have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.